Spiritual Center. Welcome to Northern Lights Spiritual Center, a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Lights Spiritual Center offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. My name is Reverend Amaré, and I am here today with Reverend Mykal Amaré, who is our speaker today. I also want to celebrate our founding minister, Reverend Pamela Grace Beatty. And actually, even though she's not on Zoom yet, today is Reverend Pamela Grace Beatty's birthday. So we can all imagine humming happy birthday in our heads for Reverend Pamela Grace. Northern Lights Spiritual Center, we are holding this by Facebook, and we are holding it by Zoom. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for making your presence available to us. Our opening song is In This Very Room by Ron and Carol Harris. You can hum it to yourself, or you can just sing along, or you can just be sung to, whichever works best. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room. And every room that we inhabit. And the reading, meditation. The meditation today comes from a recording that Reverend Mykal made. And what I'm going to invite is just listen to the sound. Take it in. And let it bring as much comfort and ease as you're willing to accept. as the bird lifts its voice without fear, I invite us to consider how we can lift our voices and sing our songs without fear. I do have a new chant for this month. You're welcome to join in as it becomes familiar to you. You know that my routine for chants is to have the first verse be I, first person, second verse, you, second person, third verse is we, and then come back to first person I. I breathe in Black Lives Matter. I breathe out Black Lives Matter. In my heart, Black Lives Matter. In my mind, Black Lives Matter. In my heart, Black Lives Matter. In my soul, Black Lives Matter. What do I say? What do I do? What do I hold and carry as truth? Black Lives Matter. You breathe in Black Lives Matter. You breathe out Black Lives Matter. In your heart, Black Lives Matter. In your mind, Black Lives Matter. In your heart, Black Lives Matter. In your soul, Black Lives Matter. What do you say? What do you do? What do you hold and carry as truth? Black Lives Matter. We breathe in Black Lives Matter. We breathe out Black Lives Matter. In our heart, Black Lives Matter. In our mind, Black Lives Matter. In our heart, Black Lives Matter. In our soul, Black Lives Matter. What do we say? What do we do? What do we hold and carry as truth? Black Lives Matter. I breathe in Black Lives Matter. I breathe out Black Lives Matter. In my heart, Black Lives Matter. In my mind, Black Lives Matter. In my heart, Black Lives Matter. In my soul, Black Lives Matter. What do I say? What do I do? What do I hold and carry as true? Black Lives Matter. Today's reading comes as the official statement from the Centers for Spiritual Living, the organization with which Northern Lights has our affiliation. We are grieving lives that ought not to have been lost. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery are the most recent in a list of countless unarmed African American and black people who have been murdered for the color of their skin over the past 400 years in the U.S. Too many generations have suffered, and it has never been, and is not now, acceptable. We denounce racism in all its forms. The starkness of unapologetic, intentional racism. The racism of silence in the face of injustice. The systemic racism inherent in our education, justice, income, and opportunity inequity. And the racism that lies hidden in our individual hearts and minds. We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors. We value a community-wide climate of safety that arises from compassion, justice, mutual respect, and kindness. Therefore, we join our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, who, echoing the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said, "You and I should form the habit of taking definite time each day to contemplate and affirm peace with justice. For there is no peace possible without justice. But faith without works is dead." We should not only pray, we should act, each contributing the best they have to the common purpose, each willing to make any sacrifice necessary, for there can be no individual self-preservation without the preservation of all. We call upon ourselves and the faith communities in the United States to take action that shows we have heard the cry of suffering and we own our responsibility for it, whether that action is prayer, donations to organizations that promote racial justice, rigorous education, or active engagement. Let not this moment of history pass unattended. May the actions we take be steeped in peace and respect for the sacredness of each life, knowing that whatever we do, individually and collectively, must be divinely directed from a higher consciousness. When we apply our proven spiritual principles through rigorous practices and compassionate action, the desired results cannot fail to demonstrate. And this came from the Spiritually Motivated Social Engagement Committee. And so it is.
Stand at the edge of the water, still in that peace I am stronger. I don't know if I can cross her. Oh, looking for some kind of sign, for something that's out to align, that I only find on the inside. When it'll stop spinning, when it'll slow down, I was swimming deeper, but I didn't drown. In a little silence, in a little peace, took a little time to find a piece of me. Just breathe, just breathe, just breathe, just I am not weak, I am stronger. I will not shrink, I am taller. There is still more I can offer. Oh, and someday you'll see the better version of me, the man that I'm proving to be. Oh, when it'll stop spinning, when it'll slow down, I was swimming deep, but I darkness, no. When it all stopped spinning, when it all slowed down, I was swimming deeper, but I didn't drown. In a little silence, in a little peace, took a little time to find a piece of me. Just breathe, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Mykal Amaré, and welcome to June. It's amazing we're already here. It seems like we've been shut away for half the year, but not quite. So, June's theme is mindfulness for mavericks, which at first had me a little baffled. I had to, I looked up the definition of maverick, and I really didn't like what it said because it wasn't enough, in my opinion. So I went on and I listened to our spiritual director, Reverend Edward Bahoon, and this is how he described a maverick. He said, "What is a maverick? A maverick is someone who thinks and acts freely and independently, often quite different from the usual way of thinking. They have ideas that lie outside of the group mind." And I added outside the box. I believe that this is one of the things that Ernest Holmes meant when he said open at the top, not being restrained or confined. A maverick thinks creatively and questions if the way of the group is the only way. And so, in that, today's topic is just breathe, as the song just said. And that song was, he created it to raise money for the COVID-19 virus. Not for the virus, but for the people it affects. So just breathe. That seems so simple, doesn't it? Just breathe, you know? Breathing, you know, is life. Because if we don't breathe, then we're pretty much dead. For the most part, we take it for granted until we can't breathe. You know, it's so easy. We take so many things in this life for granted. We take, like I said, breathing. We take that for granted. Our bodies, we don't have to tell our bodies to breathe. They automatically do that. They know, they have the wisdom of the body knows to do that. We take life for granted. And sometimes that's a sad thing to me. Because life is very precious. No matter whose life. All life is precious. Right here and right now. And also, we take each other for granted. So many times, you know, in life we just assume about other people. And that's not a good thing. That's not a healthy thing. And so, until we can't breathe, and that's what happened to George Floyd. Have you ever in your life come to a point where you've lost your breath? And I don't mean from running fast, but just to a point where you actually can't breathe. And because I know I have, there's been a couple times. And one time was when I helped my stepfather move an old refrigerator in our basement. And I must have been around, you know, early teens. And all of a sudden, I could not breathe. And it was one of the scariest things I think I've ever faced in my life. And the thing that happened was when we moved the refrigerator, we broke one of the refrigeration tubes, and the ammonia was leaking out. And then there were other times when I got hit in the stomach, or the wind knocked out of me by a certain family member, and you lose your breath. And you lose it. And you know, this is scary. When you don't have something, that's when you learn not to take it for granted. And so, the world right now is in a collective holding of breath. It's a symbology of how George Floyd was killed. And it's not just the country, but it's all over the world that are walking and marching and supporting the idea that Black Lives Matter, and that this cruelty that happens is senseless. It's inhumane. And so the world is holding its collective breath, not knowing, you know, but as they're taking in this collective breath and realizing that this can't go on. It can't. We've come to a point where something has to be done. And that we now have no idea how to solve this. And that we need to turn to a higher power and then act upon it. What comes out of it. I mean, we need to listen. I think, you know, so many times people say they're listening, and it's just a platitude or what. Oh, I hear you, yeah. And that's not true. That's a bunch of crap. They aren't really listening. Because if we were really listening, especially us white folk, then this wouldn't be happening. People wouldn't be dying senselessly, uselessly. So something has to be done, and it has to be done now. Breathing is also something, it's a way that helps us process. It helps us shift, it helps us evolve. A lot of times, I know when I was a kid and you get angry and you're told to, you know, just breathe, you know, and count to 10. And I was thinking about that this morning, counting to 10. That's not a long period of time, but counting to 10 can diffuse a lot of what's going on inside. Just by that breathing and that counting and focusing on that breath and that 1, 2, 3, you know, up to 10. Just try it sometimes when you're upset, and I get anxious a lot. And to practice that, practice just breathing and counting to 10, and see what happens within your physical body. How it just kind of like it breathes, not breathing, but it just kind of the tenseness, the anxiousness kind of dissipates, and you relax. And so that idea of breathing as a technique to do that is unbelievable. And a lot of times, well, many times vocalists, they have to learn certain ways to breathe in order to sing certain music. That's a learned way of breathing. And also pregnant women. Before they give birth, there's a practice, they learn the breathing practice. And that helps with well, I don't know personally, but theoretically that helps with the birthing process. When we meditate, it's a guided meditation, or we can self-do it, teach ourselves to do it, is to take in that deep breath through the nose and bring it down into the diaphragm, expand the diaphragm, and then release it. And normally, a lot of times we do that 3 times just to settle that in. And what that does is it calms us, relaxes us, and centers us. And so it was funny, the other day I was in for an echocardiogram, and what they're doing is like an ultrasound of the heart, and he uses this equipment on different parts of your chest and neck and heart area. And a couple of times he told me to take a big deep breath in, and I had to hold it. And that's so that he could check a certain area and what was going on, and the machine could do it. And it was just interesting that how the breath can control certain things, and how you have to control it sometimes. And then there's the times when we're in front of somebody, or in front of a group, or there's something we want to say, and it's something very important. Well, important to us anyway. And a lot of times what we do is we take that deep breath in. And that it does to relax ourselves, in order so that we can say what we have to say. For breathing gives it power, and it also voices one's authenticity. One person likened it to, seeing June is Gay Pride Month, or Pride Month. He likened it to when they came out in front of their parents or whoever it was, having to take that deep breath in, and knowing that something what they had to say is so important, but you need to be in your own power when you say things like this. When you have this idea or statement that you want to say, the breath is such a powerful tool. To breathe, this is from David Robinson. He remarked about the topic on our listserv and email, and so I thought I'd give him credit for this, and because I really liked it, so I wanted to share it. It says, to breathe, to just breathe, is a way we will start to shift out of the consciousness of conflict, rage, hurt, separation, and tribal conflict, and allow something new to show up. Something new to be born, not to be reborn, but something new that needs to be born out of this. And so breathing does shift our consciousness. I remember in practitioner training, first year practitioner training, one of the instructors said that if you're up there and you're going to do like the invocation or the closing, just stand there and just take a breath. Take a breath in gratitude. And that's what I have to do a lot of times, is you breathe in and breathing in gratitude, being grateful for whatever it is you're grateful for. Just breathe that in. Breathe in the idea and that feeling of gratitude, of being grateful. I'm grateful for this life that I have, for this life that I live, for being able to be alive today. Just sometimes it seems like little things, but it's not really. It's a big thing, breathing. And when we take in a shallow breath, we're kind of shortchanging our body. We're cheating it from its nutrients. Because when we breathe in, we breathe in deeply, that's what feeds our inner organs. So many times, the first answer in the midst of trauma and drama, in the moment, is what? Is to just breathe. So many times, I think, like like if you're upset and television, all these drama programs and whatever, somebody's upset and they're just, they said, other person will say, just breathe, just breathe. And what happens, you watch them, they calm down. I remember my first mother-in-law, after she had a kidney out, she got pneumonia in ICU, and so she was half in, half out of it. And they were trying to get her to breathe, short, shallow breaths. And that's not good with pneumonia. You need to take that deep breaths to expand the lungs. Anyway, she would take these short breaths, and then they'd say something about taking it. All right, she got mad, and you have to get her mad to take the deep breath. And sometimes, don't we have to get somebody mad to do something that's good for them? I mean, as a kid, I don't imagine your parents ever did anything to get you mad in order for you to do something. I know that after I had my open heart surgery too, I got this little machine with a little floaty ball that I had to practice, and it wasn't easy at first, but you have to do things like that in order for your lungs to get stronger so you don't get pneumonia and you don't get sick. And that's with life in general. We need to take in these deep breaths. And not just these little shallow ones, the deep abdominal breathing, it encourages full oxygen exchange. Because when you breathe in deep and then you release, you're releasing all those, the toxins and whatever your body does not need anymore. And then the beneficial trade of incoming oxygen and outgoing carbon dioxide is unbelievable. It's not surprising that this type of breathing slows the heartbeat, and it also can stabilize your blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure and you're anxious or whatever, like I do sometimes, a good practice of deep breathing. All it takes is a few times to do it. You don't have to do it constantly, but just be mindful as you do it. That's the whole thing. And when you're a lot of times when we're sitting on a couch, sitting at the computer, in the car, we're not deep breathing. We're doing some, shallow breaths. And this is when we have to intentionally be conscious of our breathing. I mean, like if you're sitting in a traffic backup, you ain't got nowhere to go anyway, so you might as well breathe. Practice a little deep breathing. Sometimes it's good to put a sticky note or something, different areas, like maybe on your dash. I know that same first mother-in-law had a little sign. It was about 3 inches long, and all it said it was breathe. And that was on the dash of her car. And I thought, you look at that, and like I said earlier, we take it for granted, but it's such a powerful thing. Just to take that breath in, that deep breath in. And so, breathing in and out is an ongoing reciprocal transition with others. We've got this going around that how is it spread? It's spread by our breathing and our those little things that come out of our mouths and nose when we do breathe. So breathing, in some sense, right now, actually can kill you if you don't do it properly. If you don't, do your distancing, do your cleaning, wear your mask. I mean, you need to take care of yourself. And so this reciprocal transaction with others, it is sharing of the most literal physical sense. Sharing molecules of oxygen and carbon and hydrogen. It implies a taking in balance with a giving out. It's kind of like this universe, and like the life we live, it's a reciprocal universe. The giving and the receiving. We give and we receive. So many times people think that being a great giver is the only thing, but that's not true. you have to be a gracious receiver also in order to be a gracious giver. And so this exchange, this giving out, it's the only sustainable system of exchange. And that's where, masks are important. Protection is important. Self-care. Not just of yourself, that is true, but the care for others. You're taking care of yourself for others. When we take a breath in, we pull in the nitrogen and oxygen. And when we exhale, we breathe out mostly carbon dioxide. And that is important. It's important because the trees, the plants, and even the algae in the ocean, they take this carbon dioxide from the air, and using the energy of the sun, they transform it into oxygen that we breathe. So there. That's a reciprocal. We get the oxygen from them, and they get the carbon dioxide from us. And we all know that it's quite important to breathe clean air. Well, at least I hope we do. And so that reminds us that the process of inhalation, I like this, it's also called inspiration. And the exhalation is also called expiration. When you say someone has expired, that means that person has expelled their last breath. In other words, they've stopped breathing, and they are therefore dead. This inspiration, the idea of that got me thinking. It's like, okay, it's like when we're visioning or in meditation. Many times things come to us. And so by breathing that, taking our practice of deep breathing, maybe 3, 4, whatever times you want to do it, that clears us out. And it allows something new to come in. So an inspiration to come in. And then that expiration, couldn't even get it out, but I couldn't expire. That expiration, like I said earlier, it expels what we don't need anymore. Because our bodies do all this. Our bodies are fantastic. I mean, to me, they're one of the most magical, mystical things is what the body does. The mind, the body, everything combined. It just, to me, it is so powerful. And that's where we actually need to be mindfully aware. That's what we need to practice in our daily life, is to be mindfully aware of how we're breathing. I mean, I don't mean to focus on it every day while you're, everything you do and you don't do anything else, but focus on your breathing. I mean, we have to be mindful in so many areas of our life. Like, say, if you want to cross the street, you better be mindful. Driving a car, sometimes I wonder if people are mindful. Just daily chores, you're mindful in doing all these things. So why not take the practice to be mindful with your breathing? To take that breath that is that gift of life in, and allow your body to relish it and to take it and make the greatest use it can. Because so many times, if we check in, especially certain times when there's tension, when we get anxious, the fears, worries, stress, trauma, those are the real and very important times we need to check in. However, no time is a bad time. Say, wait, have I taken any deep breaths lately? Am I breathing shallow? Am I feeding my body? So as we all know, it's common sense that we need to breathe to live. we may not take the time to notice how we are breathing at any given moment. When not engaged in a particular activity that requires modified breathing. Like if you're running, your breathing is modified. We need to become aware of how we're breathing. And when we change how we breathe, we change how we live. Because our bodies, if we increase our deep breathing, our bodies are going to, I believe, I don't know if there's any medical proof of this, but I believe our bodies will get healthier, or will stay healthy, by taking in and breathing, deep breathing, and allowing the diaphragm to expand and to release all what isn't needed anymore. So it's just like every day is a new day, and every moment is a new moment. It will never be repeated. Every breath that we take in helps to change us. Changes for hopefully the better. It helps our bodies, our minds, everything. Ernest Holmes comes from the Holmes Papers, Idea of Power. And part of it said, every day is a new beginning. Every day is the world made new. And I wanted to add that I feel that every breath we are made new. We're being fed, we're being changed. Thich Nhat Hanh stated that feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. I like that picture. Conscious breathing is my anchor. I'm going to just repeat that. Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. And so, homework, it's not really homework, but it's just a mere suggestion, is to start practicing breathing intentionally. Use it as a spiritual practice. Not just when meditating, but throughout the day. Practice, practice, practice. That's what we always hear in spiritual practices, like meditating, like journaling, any of the spiritual practices is practice, practice, practice. Because practice is important. Because how can you become proficient if you don't practice? So, I have I will send this out, affirmation that came with the outline this week, which I like because, I just do. And it's, I breathe mindfully that I may intend, speak, and act as a spiritual maverick, doing what is mine to do and manifest a world that works for all. So in this moment, I invite you to take a deep breath and release it. Let's try another one. In and release. And knowing that there is only one life, and that life is God's life, and that life is the breath that breathes us. That life is our breath, is our life. For the life that is God's life is our life. And with this, knowing that we are one with the divine, that we are supplied with the oxygen and the carbon, and all that we need from this breath that we take in. I speak this word knowing that each breath I take, each breath you take, each breath we take is the breath of divine. We breathe it in and we release it, allowing our bodies to be revitalized and regenerated. And knowing this beautiful thing called our body, I give thanks for the divine presence in, around, and through each of us. For each breath, I give thanks. For each breath in, each breath out, I give thanks. Each shared breath, each safe shared breath, I give thanks. And so I release this into the automatic action of the law, knowing that there's nothing else to do. For the law takes it, shapes it, forms it, and puts it in that divine motion. So I release it, I let it go, and so it is.
Thank you everyone on Facebook and Zoom for joining us at Northern Lights Spiritual Center. We will be here again next Sunday, and we will announce when we're able to get back together in person. The center is actually set up so the chairs are apart. So we have social distancing ready and able to get it launched as soon as it's safe to do so. So if you would like to donate to the center, please go to our website, which is our name, northernlightsspiritualcenter.org. No spaces, just all of the letters in a row. .com, sorry, not .org. northernlightsspiritualcenter.com. And you can hit the donate button. For those that joined with us via Zoom, you're invited to stay for a post-talk conversation to share reflections or ahas or insights that emerged. And for those on Facebook, thank you so much for being here. I want to take a moment and I want to bless the gifts that have come in. I want to acknowledge that we still have this space. We have the lights, we have the power, we have the water, we have everything that we need in order to continue to be of service to the community. So I give thanks for this, I give thanks for the sharing, I give thanks for the gracious giving that people have experienced. And I say Amen.
Amen.
I say Ashe.
Ashe.
And I say, and so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you very much.